Who represents Florida's 17th Congressional District. Welcoming to the show for the first time, Representative Greg Stubbe. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Man, we have, we're on the heels of the RNC, and what a great occasion that was for Republicans. I haven't seen a coalescing of this magnitude in decades, to be honest with you. The fact that everyone's so excited to be coming out of the convention and hitting the ground running before we head to the ballot box in November, and the amount of support that the Republican conference in itself has kind of, done in a circling of the wagons like fashion. I kind of want to get started heading into the news cycle and touching on some topics with you, talking about that. For everyone that was out there or got to watch it on television, I mean, you saw a cast of characters coming around and supporting the party, the ticket, President Trump and J.D. Vance. It was different than other years. It wasn't just top-tier politicians and a few mega donors. It seemed like it was filled with guests from every single aspect of American life right now, and their stories on talking about how the policies of the Biden administration have affected everyday Americans, and just kind of want to get some commentary on how you felt coming out of the convention.
Yeah, the Trump team and the RNC did a really good job, not only the production quality and how the program moved along, but like you said, the quality of the speakers touching a broad segment of America. I mean, everybody from Hulk Hogan to, um, you know, everyday citizens and Americans have been affected by this disastrous illegal immigration policy and the open border policy of Joe Biden. So I think they did a really good job of kind of having a large, different diametric of people to come and speak, not just, like you said, not just politicians, but people from all over the country to talk about how bad America has been under Joe Biden's policy. So it was a great thing. It flowed really well. It was a great event, obviously capped off by President Trump's speech in his first major public speaking engagement after the shooting, which he spent a good 20 minutes talking about that and talking about the family of the firefighter who was killed by the gunman, which I thought was a very nice sentiment to do to memorialize him and his family.
Yes, you're absolutely correct there. And then, when you talk about coming out of the tragic incident, as was the assassination attempt on President Trump's life here recently, it's got to concern Americans, whether you're talking about things as far back as the withdrawal from Afghanistan, all the way up to the unaccountability for the open borders policies that Joe Biden has kind of ran off of for nearly the last 4 years now. It seems like the director of the Secret Service is going to fall in line with just about every single other person that's served in this administration. I think we're 9 or 10 days out from when the incident happened. We still have essentially no answers other than what was provided, commentary from witnesses, raw cell phone videos. I mean, I know there was a bunch of House Republicans and senators up there the last few days trying to get to the bottom of what happened exactly, and the intelligence failure that led to President Trump almost losing his life. But how concerning should it be for Americans, especially coming from someone like yourself, Congressman, a member of the representatives who are supposed to be, going up to the Hill and representing their district, not being able to get answers for the American people based off of the way that this administration has, kind of stonewalled any investigation into anything that they do?
Well, it's very frustrating, and clearly they're doing it because they don't want the American people to have the answers. The hearing, I think, was very illustrative of that yesterday, where there's a whole litany list of things that Chair Comer has asked the Secret Service and the Secret Service Director to provide to the Committee of Communications, who was there, what are the names of the people that were there. And 9 days later, they refused to provide that to the committee. She wouldn't even show up, but for the fact that they subpoenaed her to be there. The speaker announced today he's going to start a task force. I mean, but what we know now is, and she even admitted the complete failing of the Secret Service. So many things that should have not happened that day. And the real question now, I think, on most Americans' minds are, was this intentional? I mean, did the Secret Service intentionally, just not? We know that they intentionally refused to give Trump more Secret Service agents. And when his agents requested more help, they refused that help. We know that right now. But on that day, I've seen posts online where the shooter had a beat on this guy. We know we have actual reporting that they knew about the shooter for 20 minutes and nobody took this guy out. I mean, being a former military guy, how in the world does it take that long to take out a guy that's got a rifle aimed towards the president?
Sure.
I can't comprehend that. And when the agency is not providing Congress, who has oversight authority, oh, by the way, and also pays their bills, the money appropriated to Secret Service comes from Congress. We have every right, and the Americans have every right to get every bit of that information, and they're stonewalling us, and they're doing it because it's bad. And the real question now is it just that much of a dereliction of duty and negligent Were they just that bad, or was it some level was this intentional where we're nope, we're not going to give Trump more detail. Nope, we're not going to respond to this. And then when the if it is true that the sniper had a bead on this assassin and he asked for permission to engage the shooter, and he wasn't given permission for that, well, every single one of those people should not only be fired, but they should be held negligently responsible for the death of the firefighter that day because they are responsible for a man losing his life. And so those are the things that we're going to get to the bottom of. I don't think we need any more information to impeach the director of the Secret Service, which is why I filed the impeachment resolution yesterday. That absolutely should move forward. But knowing Speaker Johnson, he said today he's going to start this task force. They're probably going to be reluctant to do that. But the great thing is there's this privileged resolution ability for us to force the House's hand to vote for this because even Democrats, I mean, it's shocking to even hear Democrats tell the Secret Service director that she needs to resign. And that just shows you how bad it is.
If there was one thing I didn't expect on such a wide scale coming out of that hearing yesterday, as I was watching it, was the amount of Democrats who. But listen, I think Anna Paulina-Luna made a great point yesterday. Is that nobody in the House right now, and nobody on Capitol Hill probably feels safe when it comes to the job that they're tasked with doing, based off of several different policies and promotional hiring measures and things of that nature, which led to the operational failure, which almost cost President Trump his life 10 days ago. And then when you see the people who. I mean, the Secret Service director answers to Alejandro Mayorkas, the already impeached Biden cabinet member, and now you have Christopher Wray, who, although he's pointed out some things that are of concern of him congressionally and hearing-wise over the course of the last couple of years, I mean, his job has been one that, everyone's been calling for his head figuratively, since Donald Trump was in office. So, and if that's the people that she's answering to there, combined with the fact that no one's held accountable in this administration, it seems like, House Republicans are going to be beating their head on the wall trying to get to the answers or to the bottom of what really happened up in Butler, Pennsylvania not too long ago.
Well, and the challenge with starting a task force and subpoenaing information is it takes time.
Yeah.
So let's say today or this week, the speaker, designates who this task force is with subpoena authority, and they start subpoenaing this information. Secret Service will probably have 30 to 90 days to provide the information, and then they won't do it. And then the committee is going to have to go to the court to, compel them to send us the information that is rightly, it could take 6 months to a year before we really get down to the bottom of exactly what happened on that day, exactly what communication was going on, who was where and why. And that's just extremely frustrating that Congress has the oversight authority to get that information. They're just going to stonewall and refuse to give it to us. And then if it takes longer than, say 90, however long, Trump's going to be, in my opinion, Trump's going to be in office. So all this is going to go away because all these people are going to go away. And then we'll get to the bottom of it. But at that point, it doesn't, at that point, it's not pointless. We still want the information. But at that point, there's not an ability to go after the people that were a part of all of this colossal failure.
Sure, and who knows who's going to be shredding figuratively, obviously, because a lot of the stuff's digital, they're documents and not retaining all the information that you guys would be looking for at that point either. I do want to kind of segue as for all the stuff that's going on, what happened at the RNC, obviously what happened with President Trump as well is huge news, but we can't talk about, anything in the cycle today without talking about what's going on with Joe Biden. Expected back in Washington, D.C. sometime in the near future, but, kind of clearing his event schedule to back out of the Democrat nomination and say he's only going to complete his term. We're yet to see if that's still going to be the case. But at the meantime, it seems like Kamala Harris has been elevated to the Democrat nominee without having to run a primary. Someone who couldn't even last till the Iowa caucus in the 2020 election cycle, backed out before her own state, and now she's the greatest thing to the Democrats since sliced bread. Kind of want to get your commentary on how you saw this kind of unfold over the weekend and where we kind of sit now as a nation to where, it's always the Democrats who are saying that Republicans are trying to stop them from voting and setting up all these things like proving citizenship or having an ID. But just imagine going through a presidential election cycle and becoming the nominee without having to even win one primary.
Yeah, I mean, they love to tell us that we like to interfere in elections, and they're the ones that interfere in elections. You're exactly right. Kamala Harris, if she is the nominee, which I think she has the delegates now to be the nominee, not a single Democrat American in the United States voted for her for president this cycle. Not a single one. And a bunch of elite Democrats, a bunch of delegates who were appointed by, Democrats are going to anoint her as the nominee, and she's going to walk. I mean, the most undemocratic thing you could ever have happen is you have somebody now who's going to be your nominee who's never been voted on by a single American. And the 16, I think it's 16 million Democrats nationwide who did vote for Joe Biden, oh, their votes don't matter. They've just cast all of those votes to the side because they have now, and I think this was all purposeful. Whoever internally, I think it's probably Obama, but whoever's
Sure.
operating the Democratic Party forced Joe Biden to do an early debate so that he would show, so that the American people could see just how bad he is, and then they would force him out so that Kamala could be the nominee because they know that Trump's going to beat Biden, and they think maybe Kamala would have a better shot at it than Biden would. But I think it doesn't matter who the nominee is on the Democratic side at this point. Trump's our nominee. As you saw at the RNC, everybody's rallying behind him. He has the support in the country, and he's going to be our next president.
No, we can't agree with you more. I think the selection of J.D. Vance as a vice president kind of completes that ticket, rounds it out for Americans, gives a different dynamic to it that, they were looking to add. You want to ride that wave out of the convention straight to the ballot box. I think President Trump, as always, nailed it. And I think we're going to leave it at that. Congressman, we've got your congressional website live linked in the show description today. If there's anywhere else on social media or any other handles you'd like us to put in as well, we'd sure be inclined to do that. Where can we find you?
At Rep Greg Stubbe, and then it's stubbe.house.gov on the official side.
Absolutely fantastic as it is. Catching up for the first time with a congressman who's representing Florida 17, Representative Greg Stubbe. Thanks for joining us on the show today, sir. Have a great rest of your week.
Thanks for having me.